So how current is that? You know?
Yes, and how it's so alive. It's not static at all, and just the lifting of the flag that was hiding something behind it.
Right,
And
right.
so current right now.
It really is. I think it speaks to some of the hypocrisy that we're seeing, some of the misplaced association of you know, the regalia of this country, like the flag, without really focusing on the harder issues of how are we, all of us as Americans, working to bring justice to everyone.
Yes.
This is what, you know, this next generation is seeking.
And
So,
and everyone, this is in Hannah Hall. This is in our very campus, our amazing HBCU. So can't reiterate that enough.
exactly,
It's right here at
exactly.
home. And we have
And
this
this is,
right here.
yes, this is a more recent mural that's also on the second floor. And this young artist, Prentice, he uses, it's interesting, this is about, you know, seeking education, graduating, moving upwards. And he's using this watermelon as kind of a metaphor. And he's taking something that has been used stereotypically against Black people, and he's looking at it really as kind of a life force, you know, and considering the fact that watermelons give nourishment, they give relief to all of us during the heat, but they also, if you think of land grant colleges, you think of the early times, in one of the murals you see Black students bringing chickens and grain and all kinds of produce like watermelons to pay for their tuition. The fact that Black people could grow their own crops, could, you know, be independent in that way, is testimony to the independence that these communities had in the past, that allowed the next generation to get that education, to move forward. And you see right on the top, you know, is a graduation hat. There's a Black woman down below. The water around, water becomes a metaphor in a lot of John Biggers murals. But it's a, you know, it's a very wonderful kind of new interpretation where some of these artists take these stereotypical elements and turn them on their heads. And I think
Yes.
it's, you know, I mean, right here in Third Ward now, you see men right on Blodgett and Live Oak. There's a man who brings in watermelons every day from Hempstead, you know, and people stop and buy them. I've gotten two, and they're so sweet and so good and much better than what you get, you know, at the grocery store. So there's that streak of independence and being able to sustain one another that's reflected in this mural. I think it speaks back to, you know, the strength of some of our leaders in the past, like Booker T. Washington, who spoke of the importance of Black people having their own land while getting their education. And
Yes.
yes, that was in opposition to Du Bois, but I think, well, that's another discussion, but you know, that kind of debate, they both had, you know, important places in our, you know, in our history.
I mean,
So
it just symbolizes a lot of that strong sense of community. Just being surrounded by father figures, pastors,
Exactly.
Like you mentioned, the watermelon. I mean, the angel behind has a piece of watermelon holding it up
Exactly. She's holding it up, right,
um,
Um,
in
and if
pristine.
you,
Yeah.
right, if you go back, if you look at the last mural that Dr. Biggers did on campus, Nubia,
Hmm.
there's similar kinds of references to the bounty of the earth and the gods and goddesses, from the Egyptian kind of panoply. They're all holding up,
Hmm.
bounty from the Nile River.
Yes.
Um,
This is
but
amazing.
yeah, as it's wonderful to talk about them because I always see something different. That's why this is a great opportunity, to share and to encourage people when they can, to come and see the murals
Yes.
in person, because there's always something, to explore.
And this is the sense of history, community, and as an educator, it really hones in on your critical thinking skills, right? Looking
No,
beyond what you see. Yes.
absolutely. I mean, I've read some of the best essays from our students,
Mhm.
who find the mural and take it, for themselves to
Yeah,
interpret.
definitely. And then,
And here again is another mural. I think this one is by Harry Vital, and this looks like his style. And he's dealing with this tree of life. You can see here the tree of life and the serpent with the apple in his mouth. And the branch of the tree reaches out to this woman who's holding in her arms, babies and a child. And it's all done in this very kind of geometric form, overlaid by this web, like a spider web, which again goes back to the iconography of John Biggers, because one of the books that he wrote was called Anansi, The Web of Life in Africa. And the spider in African folklore is considered highly, highly intelligent. The spider that web is like an architectural structure in which it creates order in the universe. So much of, when Doc talked, when he taught, he was always talking about this folklore that he discovered in Africa and sharing it with his students. So when you see these elements, um, in their own paintings, it and murals, it comes from this discourse that he carried on, for what, 35 years,
right.
from one generation of students to the next. So they incorporate their own imagery and build upon that African iconography that he wanted them to have. And similar to this, I want to mention, Roberto, is that we have um, an amazing array of terracotta sculptures that were done by the students of Carol Harris Sims, which also um, reflect an African tradition. So maybe at some point later we can show some of those and talk about them. But they all are in concert. They all work together. And I'm just looking at this tree of life again, and you can see it's being held up by this female figure, and there are two
Yes.
kind of breast forms that are at the base of the tree, which reaches out. So the whole role of the woman, as a source of life, is beautifully represented here. And I love the kind of halo around the female and the halo around the child. It's almost kind of a reference to Mary and the Christ child,
Yes.
that in a different scene. And then behind this web, um, you see the universe. You see a different kind of sky spreading out. So it's, you know, the vastness of their imagination.
Oh
And
yes.
if you can you imagine putting this up on a wall? You're in public. You've got faculty, staff, visitors. Sometimes the president of the university will walk by. You know, it's not, you're not in your own studio in the comfort of, you know, the quiet, you know, of the studio. You're doing this in public. So it was a great step forward for these students. And the way in which John Biggers taught mural painting was that, you know, he used the old method in which, you know, you painted directly on the wall. It's the fresco method.
Mm-hmm.
So once you put that paint down, you couldn't go back, you know,
Right.
and change it. It was there. But he was meticulous about the process. The students had to do, every one of them had to do a maquette of these, a little small 12 by 8 gridded sketch of the mural. And once that was approved by Dr. Biggers, then they were allowed to go and first start with the grid on the wall and start, you know, their painting.
No.
But it was a semester-long project. It
Well,
was their final.
it's amazing as artists doing murals, because you, like you said, you are out in public. It's just like a correlation of like anything that you do when you're out in the community. You're doing it with confidence because everyone's seeing it, and you're doing it because you have passion and you know what you're doing. And
Exactly.
it's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Well,
Right.
here, let's